Hi there guys and welcome back to the channel, and time for something a little bit different, something that I quite like and I'm sure a lot of you like to see is a who to manage video. We got Football Manager 2020 just around the corner, and with that in mind I'm going to give you three options for each of the English divisions going down to the conference to have a look at what options you've got for the game. There's going to be a small difficulty, or say like an amateur difficulty, a more medium difficulty, and what I would see as a harder difficulty per league, so to give you some options and to see what you want to get out of your game. So anyway, let me take you to it now. So I'm not lucky enough to have Alpha Edition of FM20 yet, but maybe next year, who knows. So I have got a data updated FM19 to give you some ideas, to show you what teams are in what division this season. And we're going to start with the Premier League. And the easy challenge for me, the one which you've really got to consider as a first starting point for your new FM20 save, is my club, Leicester City. And I say it's easy, it's a team that I managed to do in FM19 and nearly get relegated, so shows you my level of playing ability, doesn't it? But as you can see here, looking at Leicester, and as we know in real life, they have got a very good base squad for you to start with great young players like James Maddison here, 21 years old, with great ability. And then we've got obviously players like Wilfred Ndidi and Ben Chilwell in here as well. So they've got a lot going on in that regard. And also when it comes to transfer money, they've got a little bit of transfer money as well to spend, no doubt about it. We haven't seen the full figures of FM20 yet, but it's going to be a decent amount. In this update, they're predicted to finish about 8th, which is what I'd anticipate in FM20 as well. However, as you've seen in real life, they've got a lot of potential to go on further than this, so it does give you a lot of scope to maybe get into the Champions League and really have a fun game. The reason why I say it's a slightly easier difficulty is you have got the budget and you have got the pre-existing players. With a good system, this team can really push up in the leagues. If you don't have such a good system, they can also drop a bit, but I would say Leicester is a good place to start. Everyone starts with Man City's or Liverpool's or etc. But I think Leicester City this season, it will be a nice, easy starting save for people in the Premier League. Right, now for a more medium challenge as we have a look around. I think your medium challenge is going to be the team I'm going to be doing in my beta, which is Everton. They're predicted to finish slightly above Leicester in this data update. However, in real life, I'll say they're slightly behind Leicester in their skill set, and they're probably expected to finish slightly higher. Thus, while the difficulty will be slightly more increased for Everton. But once again, like Leicester, you've got a good core squad to build on. You are, unlike Leicester, lacking in some key areas. You do need to look at a striker when you come to Everton, because they've never really replaced Lukaku, as I've said. That's something I'm going to be looking at when it comes to my FM20 beta save with these guys. But outside of that, they have got a very good core team, a mixture of young British talent, people like Michael Keane, Jordan Pickford, who've got great stats. You can really build amongst these players. And they've got some foreign stars at Yerry Mina, who hopefully for 135,000 a week you might be able to get something out of in real life. Bless him, he's not doing as well so far. So yeah, with that in mind, I'll say Everton's another good place to look. You really could push on and get some European football. You also could find yourself stagnating in amongst the Watfords and the West Hams if you're not careful, and the Wolves, because they're that sort of club where it's going to take a little bit more clever tactical work and a little bit more clever work in the transfer market for you to really be a success with Everton. But anyway, like I say, the second pick for me will be Everton. Now, for the hard pick of the Premier League, I'm going to suggest you do Burnley. Burnley, you say? Why? Does other clubs that have come up, like Sheffield United, like Norwich, those clubs have got very distinct styles, as have Burnley. But Burnley really do have some financial constraints you're going to have to contend with. And they are a club that sets you a high bar already, in that they do still survive in the Premier League season on season. You do have your core key players, people like Dwight McNeil, who's been superb this season, only 18 years old, still got a lot of potential and can really grow into a big player for you. Wouldn't surprise me with FM20, he is a bit of a wonder kid and he could end up moving on to a bigger club. So that's something to consider. You've got a great target man in Chris Wood, who is unbelievable at this level, slightly underrated for me in real life, or great talent. And also Johan Bergmanson, who's a great winger, worth a lot of money for Burnley as well. So you do have some core positions covered well in Burnley, but it is going to be a harder challenge because you're going to have to work hard in that transfer budget. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to look at your under-23s to see if you could do anything. Probably not very likely because they haven't got a lot of depth back there. But as I say, this is really where your challenge lies. Could you do something like take them to Europe? I mean, it's happened in real life. If Sean can, surely you can, right? Moving on and down the divisions into the Championship, a lot of people like to start in the second division, myself included, because it's normally quite a fun save to start your new Football Manager experience, to try and take a club from the Championship to the Premier League and see how you get on. Let's start with an easy pick, one I think will be quite fun but also relatively easy, and that to me is going to be Bristol City, perhaps surprisingly. In this, I predict to finish about 12th. I think in the next FM they're going to be rated as being better than this because they have got a hell of a lot of young talent. Players like Marley Watkins in here, say he's not young, he's 27 one. But anyway, they've got other players like Matty Taylor, Andrew Weimann, and they've got a good mix. Corey Smith, who's currently got an injury in the game, he's a good player at this level. And at the back now, they've also got quality in there with Thomas Callas, who's experienced and very, very solid. Could even do a job in the Premier League potentially. So with that core team there, with a little bit of good transfer business, some good tactics, you can really push on and probably get them into the playoffs and no doubt in the Premier League perhaps in the season or two. So for me, that's quite an easy challenge. I don't think they're in any threat of getting relegated. I don't think you can mess them up that much. They're not tightly financially constricted. So with that in mind, I'll say Bristol City's a very nice easy pick for you to be slightly different as well and try and get a different club to the Premier League who've not been there before. Anyway, moving on to a more medium sort of problem now. Medium sort of team selection. I'm going to recommend Preston North End. And Preston North End in real life have been building slowly the last few years. They've done a great job in looking like relegation candidates to now being a more solid, pushing on towards the playoffs kind of team. Done it on a tight budget with some very clever, tight management. And I think if you can do the same with them, taking what they've got in team organisation, team dynamics, which would be pre-existing, you can really add to this team very cleverly. And from here with their young players like Brad Potts, who's very decent at this level, and Josh Harrop, Tom Barkhuizen, who's also proving himself more and more with his acceleration, etc. You've really got a chance here to get them into the playoffs and push them on. The signing as well of David Nugent in the summer at 33, while it doesn't look amazing on paper, he is a quality striker at this level and he will get you goals. So no doubt about it, they are a real interesting proposition this season. So I'll say, yeah, for me, Preston will be your median challenge of the Championship. And now for the hard one. Luton Town. And yes, it probably is going to be the hardest one. I mean, Barnsley are going to be tough as well, but Luton Town, you're fighting a lot of factors because you're coming into the Championship with a decent team at League One level, one which comfortably won League One with some good young players in there as well, like Roderick Mapanzu, for example. Kazenga Luwalawa is always a danger man, but you've got some really tight constraints, especially with the stadium capacity. Only 10,000, there's not a lot of revenue to be gained from that. So you're going to have to be a resilient little unit that really utilises the loan market well. If you go back to my Blackpool save, and please go back and watch it if you have a bit of a pop there, a bit of advertising. But if you can really get in and get those loan players early doors that can really add to this team, I think you can get them out of the relegation zone pretty easily, and you can probably get them up towards maybe the top half of the division. You know, that would be a hard challenge, but it would definitely be very, very satisfying if you could do the impossible and get them to the Premier League. Right, moving on to League One, and as you can see, we've got Bury in this because obviously I'm on FM19, and in FM20 there won't be any Bury, sadly, because of course they were sadly expelled from the Football League earlier in the season. So you only have 23 teams to choose from in your first season in League One. So let's start with a nice easy challenge, and of course we're going to recommend them, Sunderland. And the reason why we're going to recommend Sunderland is because simply they are a massive, massive, massive club, and there's very few clubs you probably can look at in League One and go, do you know what, if I get them good in League One, I might be able to get them up from the Championship the next season. Sunderland for me is one of the few clubs you can say that with. They've got a really good, decent core squad at this level. They've wielded out now a lot of the high earners. You've still got one or two like Duncan Watmore in there, who it really for his money isn't worth it now, particularly in my opinion. So you've still got a little bit of room there. And of course, when you get those wages off, they will come back into the club. So that is something to consider as well, because that gives you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to bringing in players. So I think Sunderland's a nice, easy challenge from League One. You can really look to get yourself promoted and build a strong team in the same season that then can push on in the Championship and really give you an exciting save. And who knows where you can go from there. With that stadium capacity, you could go places. You could go to Europe even. They've got a lot of potential, Sunderland. Right, for a medium challenge now, let's have a look here. For me, the medium challenge has got to be Lincoln City. They are going to be predicted to finish about 6th place, I believe, in the playoffs because they're on a bit of a run up from League 2. They've got a small stadium as well, like Luton in the Championship, so that is something to consider. But the difference is with Lincoln, they've got a lot of young quality that's been there for years now. Harry Anderson, for example, is a great player at this level. Ellis Chapman's a youngster, 17, who looks really promising as well. They've got great players like John Akindi, who are really solid at this level as well. I think they're going to be a bit of a tank of a team. You've got everything you kind of need already there with the dynamics as well. You just need to go out and just plug a few gaps and you might be able to push them on. A nice medium challenge for League One that when you get to the Championship will have a step up in hardness, no doubt about it. So that for me is a nice medium one. And for the hardest challenge you're probably going to get in Sky Bet League One this season, I would say you're going to have to go for Bolton Wanderers, right? Because Bolton Wanderers are going to be bottom of the game with a minus 12 points at the start of it because of administration. You go into them here. This team is probably completely different to the team on FM20 because once they got out of the administration and looking like they were going to go bankrupt, they managed to sign some players like Jack Hobbs, Chris O'Grady, who are out of contract with other clubs and could come in on a free and do a job for them. But you have got some decent players to build from. Ben Alex, not a bad goalkeeper at this level. In fact, he's a very good goalkeeper at this level, I would argue. And you've got players like Ertan Oztumer, who is dangerous, got great long shots. So you've got players there potentially you could build around. Perhaps actually I'm saying that, perhaps those two players aren't there in real life. I really should have checked that. But anyway, Bolton Wanderers will be a tough challenge no matter what you've got. And you've got to start on minus 12 points and you've got to try and build the club up from basically nothing. But with the stadium capacity, you have got the advantage once you swing it in the right direction that, like Sunderland, you could really push on. So for me, Bolton's the hardest one, but could be the most rewarding of the lot. Two divisions to go, and let's go down to the last level of professional football in England. That is Sky Bet League 2, and where are we going to start with a nice, easy challenge, I hear you say? Well, I think the only place you can start really is Forest Green Rovers, right? Okay, so on this, they look like they've got absolutely nobody. In real life in FM20, they will have a more rounded squad that is going to be more likely to be in the top 6 favourites for the division. They're a very well-run club. They haven't got the biggest stadium in the world, but they have got very tight finances and a very good young team there for you to build upon. And also with a little bit of push, I think you can make them really flourish into a decent side at this level. So now Forest Green are one of the favourites. You can take them on board and push them up into Sky Bet League 1. For a medium challenge, I think we're going to look at newly promoted Leyton Orient. They'll be a bit more favoured than 23rd in FM20, and once again, coming up from the conference, they have got a very good team for this level, and I imagine you've got goals in your arsenal, so you can go out there and do a good job with that. People like Jordan Maguire, Drew, who are great at this level. So with that in mind, you've got a lot of scope there with Leyton Orient to build them on. They have been a championship club before in the past, and that's something to consider when you look at your challenges. They've got a decent stadium capacity at this level, double that of Forest Green, which also will help you. Right, and for your hard challenge in the division, there's only really one or two places you can go, and I'm going to suggest an ex-Premier League team, and it's not Bradford, it's Oldham Athletic. In real life, they're looking like they're on the slide a bit. I've always kind of questioned which ex-Premier League team potentially would be the first one to go to non-league, and it looks like now that might be Oldham Athletic. For years it could have been Bradford or Coventry, but now it's looking like Oldham. They have got, actually, an okay team on paper. However, they just seem to be utterly terrible at putting it in practice right now. And also they have massive financial constraints which are going to really limit you when you come into the club. You're going to have to look at your loans. You're going to have to be very clever in how you manage this team and get around the financial constrictions you are facing. You have got a decent stadium capacity at Boundary Park, which does help, though. It does mean if you can push on and at least solidify the club, you can push on from there, no doubt, in following seasons. You're probably looking at the first season just trying to really solidify them and then try and push on from there in a couple of seasons down the line. So Oldham's the toughest challenge, but also, once again, like Bolton in the division above, very rewarding because they used to be a Premier League club, don't forget, and imagine if you can make that happen again. Right, and we head to the National League. Now, if you want to start in non-league, why not start in the toughest division to get out of? There's only one automatic place, and then there's four places in the playoffs, so it's very hard to get out. There's a lot of teams have been stuck down here for years, and in fact, that's one of the ones we're going to start with, the easy challenge. We're going to start with Wrexham, predicted to finish 5th on FM19 with the update. I'd imagine it'd be about the same in FM20. They have been stuck in the non-league now for absolutely forever, and they are desperate to get out. They have been a league club. They've got a decent fan base. They've got a decent stadium, the Racecourse Ground, 15,000 capacity for non-league. So there's really something there for you. If you can get an FA Cup run as well to bring some money through the door and to really push the club on. And I could see you getting this club to League One, even Championship level, with a bit of commitment to the cause. So Wrexham for me is a great one to start at in the Sky Bet, in the non-league. Goodness me, even I'm losing it. Anyway, moving on now to your middle challenge, and I'm going to go for Torquay United. And Torquay United are newly promoted. They're newly promoted from the Conference South, but they have been a league club. In fact, when Jamie Vardy first signed for Leicester, the team I support, the first club he scored against was Torquay in the League Cup, because Torquay were a league club back in those days. They've got great young talent for you to start with as well. Players like Jamie Reid are fantastic. I've got a mate of mine at work who's a big Torquay fan. He fills me in on all the quality players, and they've got a lot of players here for you to really play with, like Jacob Sullock, who's decent at this level. You can really, really build a nice team there, and they've got a relatively okay budget from what I know. So Torquay, you could get them up into League One on, even into the Championship long term. So really for me that's a fascinating one, especially rebuilding a former Flame as well. And on the hardest note of that, we're also going to look at Hartlepool. I think in now this season Hartlepool aren't doing as well. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're about mid-table. I'm not 100%, I really should have researched this before I came in. But they've got financial constrictions. They've not got the biggest stadium in the world at Hartlepool. It's only 7,000 at Victoria Park. So they're going to be a challenge for you to get back into the Football League. They have been a Football League club, as we know. That's a lot of the tradition with what we're seeing with the conference choices I'm offering you. But there's a lot of potential to try and get them back up there. But I know it's going to be on a tight budget. Of course, at this level, you might want to look to become a feeder club for someone to try and get players coming down to you, maybe from Championship clubs in a local vicinity. That can only help you really to push on and try and build your empire. So there you go, guys, some food for thought for you for Football Manager 2020. As you can see, one of my choices, the median choice of my Premier League lot, will be my selection for the beta, which is Everton, so that's what I'm looking forward to. But like I say, go out and have a think about what team you want to go out and play with. You know, think about what it is about that team that you like. Is it their history? Is it their tight finances? Is it their small stadium? Is it their big stadium? Is there something you can see that really wants you to get your teeth to sink into the Football Manager game? Really look out for that. And throw some things in the comments. Let me know what you think. What teams do you recommend that I've overlooked? Maybe teams like Nottingham Forest, Leeds. There's plenty of teams down there who've got a lot of potential to be an exciting game. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you very soon for Everton and Football Manager 2020 right here on FM 303.